All right, welcome everyone. It's Wednesday. It's 4:30 p.m. Central Time. It's time for the ViaMonstra hours, ViaMonstra hours, office hours here on the ViaMonstra Academy. This is where we will share updates on everything that happens in our little community, together with a chance for you guys to ask questions about pretty much anything related to Intune, ConfigMgr, imaging, Windows, PowerShell, Azure, Microsoft infrastructure for short. And today we have a special guest. Shall we get going?
Let's do it.
All right. Hello there, Han Andrew. Hello, Mike. Welcome. This is our special guest for the week, Mike Marable. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Doing really well. How about yourself?
Sounds pretty good. It's a beautiful day, clear blue sky, 85, 90 degrees. Perfect excuse to be indoors and doing this.
Exactly.
So, Mike, for those of you that don't know you, would you mind to say a few words on who you are, and what you do for the community?
Sure. I'm a, I guess you can call me an OS deployment architect for Michigan Medicine. It's the health system associated with the University of Michigan. I do their imaging. I ConfigMgr administration, Intune architect type work. Been there about coming up in 18 years now.
Yes, the kid living the dream. That's the word. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we are all in that span, all of us here. So you recently came back from MMS in Minneapolis.
Yep.
Was that your first speaking engagement, or did you speak before?
It's actually my third.
Third?
Yep. Back in 2019, I did one session with Kaido, and then
before COVID, yeah.
Right. Back before the days.
Yeah.
And then in 21, I did a couple of sessions with David Seguera and Adam Gross and Nikolai Anderson. And then I did the 4 sessions this year with David and Morris. Stumble on that now and then.
Yeah. I try to always make sure to remember he's from Ireland, so I don't actually say the country that is next to it, because then he'll be mad, and we can't have that, really. All right. So I know that you have been quite active, involved in Windows 11 upgrades as of recently, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts a little bit on Windows 11 in general, or also what an organizations, for example, like yours, can do to prepare for it, because that time is coming up quickly. The late 2025 may sound far away. No,
but it's not.
It's coming quick.
Start soon. Start right away. It's going to be a fun journey. We were actually getting ready to begin our WAS upgrade from Windows 10 21H2 to 22H2.
Yeah.
When things went into motion with our hardware vendor, that kind of pushed us into skipping Windows 10 22H2 and just decided to go straight to Windows 11. So we've been kind of quickly scrambling to get things up and running, get things ready. We're going to leverage the same WAS process that we've had for years. And shameless plug here. It's the one I stole from Mike Terrell and Gary Blok years ago. Where we have a series of gated phases in our config manager environment that machines have to sort of like Plinko, work their way through, and if they make it through all the phases, they're pretty strong candidate that the upgrade's going to work. So we'll filter things out, like machines that are low on disk space, machines that are maybe have an unhealthy config manager client. In the case of Windows 11, machines that they're not running TPM 2.0, or they don't have a supported CPU, all those sort of things. We kind of filter them out, shunt them off into their own collections. We can report on them, and then if it's something that can be addressed, it can be. If it's hardware that has to be replaced, it'll be replaced. So we're looking to get that kicked off, upgrades, I believe, starting after the new year, and try to get that done before spring.
That's an ambitious timeline.
Yeah,
Glad to hear.
it's ambitious. It's I'm sure it's going to have its pain points, but it's kind of, we're also going to be doing a config manager upgrade immediately before it. So yeah, it's going to be a fun winter.
Well, indeed, living the dream. Yep, here we are. All right, thank you so much. And I know, Andrew, you have some update for us that has been going on for the past 7 days here.
Of course, there's always something going on in our little corner, isn't there?
Every now and then.
So yeah, if you want to go ahead and share my screen, I've got just a few things today that I wanted to share. First thing I came across was from our friend Gary Blok. Released a post a little while ago on last week, I think, building on a previous post that he used to detect if HP docks were connected to a Windows device. And this kind of helps you do firmware updates for HP docks through the Config Manager app model. So I thought this was really cool. Gary's doing a ton of awesome stuff in this space. So always happy to share this. And then a few of the other things that I came across were actually Microsoft related announcements that could be important to some of our viewers out there. The first one is Microsoft had announced that the Azure AD graph was going to be deprecated on June 30th. That is still the case, but they made an update last week basically announcing that the Azure AD, Azure AD Preview, and MS Online PowerShell modules will now no longer be deprecated until March 30th, 2024. So buying a little extra time here, about 9 more months for, many. I know there are a lot of people out there that are still using these modules, myself included on some scripts. So this buys a little bit more time to go ahead and do the updates. Also came across an announcement on some changes to MS-Graph Intune app reporting endpoints. So this is just something that looked like it could be important to some folks out there. Basically, some of these various endpoints here for Intune app reports are changing. So I wanted to point that out. And then Intune device compliance reports are also getting some updates. Some have started to roll out already, and others will be coming in later on, it looks like. But basically, these are look to be similar reports or similar updates that we've seen to some of the other reports. Performance updates, user experience updates, things like that. So those were some of the big things that I came across over the last few days. And then I actually saw a pretty shiny announcement earlier today that had your name on it, Johan. You've got some in-person events coming up.
Is that so? Yeah, indeed. We are going back to in-person events for user groups, and I absolutely love that. So we are doing an OSD day up in Minneapolis for the user group there. So let me go ahead and share my screen real quick because I do have that page up. This one, let's see, you go away, and here we are. So that I think is pretty shiny. Gary Blok, Mike Niehaus, David Segura, Mike Carroll. I like to say I'm in pretty good company to talk about OSD, and looking forward to spend a day on doing that. Obviously, we'll cover Windows 11 migrations, but it will be much, much more knowing these guys. So that'll be fun. So if you have a chance to visit us, by all means do so. We'll share the link to this event in the usual link collection here on the Academy. So good stuff. Thank you for the friendly reminder.
Very cool. Yeah, that should be. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. That should be awesome.
Speaking of that note, I cannot not say it. Next week, we have a free event here on the Academy. It's me and Mike Niehaus talking Windows 11 for an hour and a half. Have a chance to come to Minneapolis. This is a good chance to catch up a little bit on what's new in that era or that area. Starts at 9, June 29, Thursday. So price is just right for that one. Community price, special.
It's a great price.
It is a great price. Yeah. So, all right, that's all I had there. And I do see we have a good chunk of questions coming in already.
We do. So the first one that came up here, I want to rename the built-in administrator account for a PC and set a password as part of Autopilot pre-provision hybrid Azure AD join. Any suggestions? We're not considering labs. We have another solution in place. Nothing that comes directly to mind from me.
Mike, any takers, ideas?
First thing that came to my mind was scripting it. Created, PowerShell it, wrap it up in as a Win32 app, and make it one of the mandatories in your Autopilot profile. That could probably get it done. Maybe not the most slickest of ways, but
No, but it's an elegant way you get the script down because they are coming down early as long as you tell them to come down early.
Right.
And it depends a little bit on who is preparing the machine, I think, as well. If you are onboarding machines yourself into Autopilot through your imaging solution, then you have more options because you can add into your sequence, or you can add into a script that runs earlier, like in the specialized paths to do things like that. But if it's someone else imaging the device and sending it to you, like Dell or a service partner that builds it in a warehouse somewhere and then ship it, it becomes more trickier. Then I'll say that Mike's idea is spot on there. I haven't seen too many scripts that out there that does it, but I'm pretty sure that you guys will be able to find at least something if you start searching. This is what I love about this community. There are so many bright minds out there, and you are rarely the first one to try something. Someone has often done something similar before, or that you can borrow from. So, yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Great suggestion. All right, next question here on YouTube is the mapped drive inventory data connected natively in ConfigMgr? So can you please show the default hardware inventory class? I want to see what it looks like in hardware inventory.
Don't think so, but help me, Mike, keep my head straight.
Oh, don't look at me. I'm
I do
I'm
not
looking
know.
here, but I've never done any inventory of mapped drives specifically. Just seeing if I can find anything.
I mean, it's absolutely possible to do, even if it's not enabled by default, because pretty much anything you can find on a device, you can smack into a registry key, and registry keys we can inventory quite easily in ConfigMgr, and Void Lab you have extended inventory of whatever that may be. It may not be the most elegant way. Um,
I want to say, showing my age here, I suppose, that I think the map drives are already actually stored in the registry.
that
That if
sounds
you,
reasonable, yeah.
because
Yes.
back when we did our XP to 7 migration years and years and years ago, we had a number of users that had, custom map drives, and we wanted to try to make sure that we didn't lose those as part of the upgrade process. And there's a little thing tickling in the back of my mind that we ran a script that pulled the drive mappings out of the registry so that they could be recreated when the machine was rebuilt with Windows 7 at the time. But again, that was a long time ago, but like I said, I'm pretty sure it's in there.
I found a blog from McFletcher.
I just found that one as well, the script, and then you can extend custom inventory basically.
Yeah, so this one here, you have script I run, and then extended hardware inventory, so it did show up as its own unique class. That class is not there by default. That's been added. This one here. I would have remembered seeing it by now. So yeah, maybe that. Did you have anything else on the mind under there?
No, that was it. I mean, to Mike's point, I mean, most of what I'm reading, since ConfigMgr is running a system, all of these map drives are stored in the registry, but they're in the user hive, so you have to collect them somehow. And this looks like, having not done it myself before, this looks like a reasonable approach.
Yeah. Again, you're normally not the first one to think about something, especially in config manager land.
Yep. All right. I see 2 different entries for the same Windows Autopilot devices in Azure AD: hybrid Azure AD join type and Azure AD join type. Is that normal, or does it need to be merged at some point as a single entry in Azure AD? I would say, and if either of you gentlemen feel free to hop in here, if there's 2, there's likely an older entry that probably just needs to be deleted, is how I think I would approach that.
Yeah.
That's at least that's the most likely scenario that I usually come across with something like that.
That comes to mind immediately. I see some other folks asking about it, looking at a few Reddit forums and whatnot. Of course, the number one reference that came up was old post for this. But I don't see anything in there on dealing with duplicate devices. There is a reference in the bottom here. I was just skimming through it super speed, but here our goal is to have the Azure AD merge the two device objects together. And that kind of leads me to believe that that might very well be by design, unless Microsoft have fixed it since.
Question: does it happen on all their autopilot devices, or just certain cases?
Yeah, that's a good follow-up question. See if we get in a reply there regarding if it's all devices or just some.
And if it's some, is there anything common? Like, I've seen it where, I rebuild a device, a complete reimage, not a reset, like a complete reimage from scratch, and I'll get a duplicate device in Intune. But just from a straight up autopilot, brand new machine. I haven't run across it. We're duplicating computer objects.
Yeah, and there was a follow-up that they said it was all the autopilot devices.
Yeah, I found one. This is on the Microsoft own forum. Someone posted basically how do we deal with duplicate devices, and there was some follow-up costs and some reference down here for dealing with this. So maybe this could be helpful. I haven't had the pleasure of dealing with hybrid in a little bit, so I don't have a lab where I can look at right now either. Try to stay away from it as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Run, Forest, run.
That's right. All right. I've got another question here on YouTube. Using modern driver management, have Lenovo models, say T14, for example. They seem to be failing to create the package as the name is too long. I've tried very short local paths, but it's still failing. Has anyone else seen this happen?
I have not, but there is obviously a limit on the name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's using the name together with the description field that has the SKU number to do the match. So if you have to change the name, you basically have to rewrite a lot of the scripts that are in there to do that matching. Because there is no way to extend the naming field. You can set it longer in PowerShell than you can when you create a package, but even that has limits on how long it can be. And that's how Maurice are creating those packages. I do not have a workaround for that. I would recommend reaching out to Maurice and see if he has any ideas, but I have a feeling it will come back to, that was not it, but coming back to changing the way, like completely changing the ways how those packages are named. Maybe even remove like drivers out of the name and just assume that you know it's drivers because it's in the driver packages folder. But this is, I've been blessed so far not having to deal with. I'm not sure if I have any Lenovo's here. I had a few. Yeah, Lenovo's are intense in their naming. Yeah, it sounds like it should be doable to have some sort of a conversion mapping or mapping table to get rid of all these extra machine types that Lenovo puts into their name. But that will require a code gen of the modern driver management tool, as well as the apply script that installs them. If it's only a few models, I could even consider going old school for those models and basically have something like this. I had to do this for a customer where they needed support offline driver packages, and the modern driver management solution out of the box doesn't do that. It requires access to the admin service. But I wrote a PowerShell script here. It's not the most elegant script, but it's a script that basically looks for a package in a specific folder. If it finds that Vim file, zip or Vim file, it goes ahead and mount it and applies it. So that way you can have any name that you want in the download package content action, and you put a condition on it to only download if it's matching. So it means you can still have your modern driver management script for all but the models that are causing you grief, and you can have a workaround for those. Not sure if I published that script, but I know a guy. Legacy drivers. Legacy drivers. PS1. Edit. Also copy. Paste. Save. GitHub. Commit. Push. Yeah, it's up there. It's magic. So here should be a script that will help you to work around that stuff. There we are.
Awesome. Look at that. That was fast.
It's almost magic.
Copy and paste.
That's right. All right. Let's see. We've got a couple other things that have popped up here. We had a comment on LinkedIn that for the mapped drive reporting, you could use a CM pivot query. Would make sense. We'll probably be able to look at the registry there with the CM pivot query. So thank you for that suggestion. And then we had another question on YouTube. I want to deploy an app, then apply a hotfix after installation and then restart. How do I do that via ConfigMgr app deployment?
Task sequence.
Yeah, it's usually for this we have sequences. I was testing something very similar the other week, where we had a sequence that would uninstall a software, restart, and then install the new version because you could not upgrade to the new version until the old one was out of the picture and the system rebooted in between. But I mean, you can have dependencies of apps for sure. It's been around for a long time. The trick is to initiate a reboot and then have the app continue after the reboot. I mean, eventually the next application cycle it will kick in after whatever the default 7 days, and it will hopefully install it. But you may not want to wait a lot of time for that to happen. So I'll say a sequence is a better choice to do things like that. And it's been supported for years now to use sequence as application installations. It's been working for 15 years, but they only supported it for a few years. Anything from you, Mike, on the topic?
No, I'm with you. I'm like Gary Blok. I'm anything that requires a chain of events or any sort of special handling. I always go to a task sequence to do it. There's just that's just where my money is. If you need to do this, install an app, stick in a hotfix, reboot stuff like that, a task sequence just would make life easier for you.
All right, sounds good. All right, any other questions out there?
I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment, but there was a thank you for the suggestion. Thank you for the suggestion on the Intune debug tool. It was very helpful. I think you mentioned that last week.
Yep. It's very handy, very handy. Matthias has put in good work in that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I can share a new blog post I wrote earlier today.
Ooh, that's exciting.
No, not really. Way more time than it should. It was so stupid, but I figured I would share it because I guarantee there is someone out there that done the same thing. So here was the deal. I was helping a company collecting data for a ConfigMgr client health report, and I wanted to include date in one of the columns so I could keep track of when that data was gathered from the devices, because it's helpful to see that. And this company were all over the globe, have every language pack you can imagine and more on their devices. So the format of the dates would end up like very, very differently in my report, and that made sorting impossible. Because I was doing something like this, super simple, get date, great. But that actually honors your culture of the machine, your language settings. So that's why it ended up with different. But this code here, 3-liners, that took care of the problem.
Interesting.
Yeah. So see if I can have Junior be a little bit more quiet. Give me just a second.
Sure.
It's the real world, right?
That's right.
I've half expected my cat to come walking across the keyboard here. It's the way the world works.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, apparently it's a very important Minecraft game going on here.
Oh, absolutely. Very
Usually
important.
it's the white one next to me here, Kylo, that comes and interrupts, but small horse, that's what he is.
Yeah, he's quiet today.
Yeah.
Working with dates is always interesting. So this is pretty cool. Just because it can come in so many different formats, even with the same language, different applications are going to report it differently. Always a challenge. So these little tricks are super helpful.
Yep. Thank you. So that's what I was spending my morning with.
Good stuff. All right, we did have a couple questions come in here. How to find the app install and hotfix. Oh, how to find out if the app install and the hotfix installed based on the value in the logs via task sequence. So this is back to the question on deploying the app, and then this is a follow-up question for deploying the app, then the hotfix, and then restarting.
I mean, you can parse log files through a script, and based on the result of that one, you can do something in the sequence. That is doable.
Right. I mean, it kind of all depends on, how is the app being installed? What, you can capture return codes from it. You could wrap the installer in a script so you can catch this sort of thing. And like you're saying, you could parse the logs if you're, looking to the logs to confirm whether the app installed properly or not. Same with the hotfix.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have done some work in the past on using wrappers to run whatever. In this case, it hadn't be disk part, but it could be any installer executable, and then basically looking at different type of either standard output or arrow output, or basically just, as Mike mentioned, exit codes from the command itself, and depending on exit code, do something. Deemed it successful, not successful, set a variable that you can have as a condition in the sequence later. There are many options available. Powershell application deployment toolkit, I know they have some logic to detect things like this that you can tap into if you're using that one. A bit of a learning curve, but there are plenty of learning resources out there for the app deployment kit. We have showcased them a few times because Matthias and the other folks here, they launched their, good Lord, YouTube channel at some point last year, and they have published, see if I can actually go to the channel. Here, there is like a part 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm assuming, for or maybe chapter 4. There was some related to a sequence. Here we go. Chapters, not parts, chapters. So 4 different, everything from the beginner's one. Seems to be reasonable. That's number 1, the fundamentals, and then going forward with the others. So this is just a great toolkit if you need to have any sort of logic around applications.
Our packaging team lives and dies by this.
Oh yeah,
it is an amazing tool.
So what features in it do they value the most, or what have you seen being used most in your organization?
Probably the 2 things: the user notification. We have, I'm sure everybody does, they have apps that you can't upgrade or patch them until they've been shut down. So the notification features of that are just fabulous. Pops up, let the user know that these apps need to be closed, before it can continue on. There's just the robust logging from it. I mean, it almost seems like there's like nothing this thing can't do. It's if you're looking to package applications, you cannot go wrong with this. I highly recommend it.
All right, seems like it's video time.
Right. Has anyone done the update for SAP GUI.exe from one version to the next?
I have not.
No.
I mean, if anyone out there in community has done something, or that I happen to know of a resource that has done it, by all means, If you put it in the chat, we'll be happy to share it. But it's not something that I've seen. So there was a follow-up question from Garrett there about the packaging tool. It is this PowerShell app deployment toolkit. That's the name of the tool. They have their own website, PSAD app. This one here. So it's not like a traditional packager if you think like how you did it with Wise or Install Shield back in the days, creating an MSI file of everything, but it's more like a framework to launch your installers, whatever those installers may be. It can be MSIs, can be exe files, can be pretty much anything. So yeah. Should do it. And we got some other shares from the community recommending the app deployment toolkit. Yeah, if there is a standard on how to launch applications in ConfigMgr, this tool is pretty much it. Other than that, it will be your own PowerShell scripts. Mm-hmm. And before PowerShell script organization used batch files that will have like an install.cmd. That they will always use it the same way. That was their wrapper to do things. All right. I think we are catched up on questions. We still have a whopping 17 minutes at our disposal. So if you guys have any questions, by all means, let us know.
Talk about life. Got to get the cat out of the way.
There you go.
I told you, any minute she was going to come walking across the keyboard.
Yep. One of the early office hours, one of our cats, Garfield, basically, he looks like Garfield. His name is Poe. But he, out of the blue, he never jumps up. And he's a healthy cat. He's a good 20 pounds. So he just jumped right off my lap. I was anyhow. Now I'm prepared.
Too funny.
It's on video, obviously.
We're going to have to go back to it. If anyone's looking for any info on conditional access rules, shameless plug here. Paul Winstanley and I are about halfway through a series blog posts that go through all the various conditional access templates.
Fantastic. Is there a link somewhere we can?
Let me throw it in here.
There is.
Go to.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
We're about eight parts into it so far out of 16 and counting.
Oh, wow. You guys have spent some hours on this.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of hours, a lot of frustration, it's been quite a fun ride.
All right. Thank you for doing this. We will sure to share this link as well together with the others.
Yeah, this is great stuff. I mean, conditional access is such a powerful tool, but it can be, I think to your point, complicated and can work in ways that you didn't expect it to work or not work.
Exactly. How many times we've been fighting exactly that, where it's like it's not doing what we're expecting it to do.
I mean, I even have Andrew help me get it set up for one of our smaller tenants. So it's like there are so many things, and if you do it wrong, you are locked out. If you don't have that break glass account or anything, you are. That's going to be a nasty support call. Just get back into your own tenant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great series, though. Thanks for sharing that, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, looks like we got a couple of more questions that came in while we were chatting. Awesome. Been trying to get autopilot working with hybrid Azure AD join, and we made it work with 15 apps being installed, but the success rate is 70%. There's always a failure. Are you guys having similar experience?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, with both. I'm saying this is just based off of how much I've heard you talk about it, Johan, with having both hybrid Azure AD join in place with autopilot as well as that many apps with autopilot. I think you've seen some struggles there, right?
Yeah, it's basically both those items are working against you. The number of apps for one, and also the fact that it is hybrid Azure AD join and autopilot. It's just one of those scenarios that are challenging.
Yeah, we haven't done anything with hybrid joining, but our autopilot, embarrassed to say, we have 22 apps that we're trying to shove down during autopilot, and yeah, you start putting that many apps into it, and it's just by the sheer number of moving parts with all those various application installs happening, you're tempting fate, and failure is going to be a lot more common the more apps you throw in there.
I hear you. Yeah.
Johan, does the Windows event you mentioned earlier, is that a day or more than a day?
No, it's a full day. The user group meeting.
All right. Easy one.
Yep.
All right, we have about 200 machines in our environment with a component store corruption identified through cumulative update install failures. Worked with Microsoft for a year. They say to reimage when you have that problem. Any thoughts on tracking it down? Worried that we're unknowingly causing this corruption somehow.
Nothing that rings a bell.
Sorry, I've got nothing.
Yeah, same. Unfortunately. Yeah. But, of course, if anybody else does, please feel free to throw it in the chat and we will make sure to mention it. All right. I have an issue with an application task sequence in ConfigMgr. One of the ones we copied is failing. All I'm seeing in terms of logs in execmanager.log showing content not available. When I check the task sequence, all packages and apps are showing 100% on the DP. I've also checked location logs, and the client is in the boundary.
I mean, I've certainly seen copied sequences behave badly, that they are referencing a version of the package that no longer exists. Like you have a source version 5 of the package, but the sequence thinks it's you use version 4. Either just recreate that sequence manually and adding those packages to it usually does the trick. I wouldn't bother trying to troubleshoot a sequence too long, but it's so easy to create a new one. Sometimes even copying steps in works, but if there is a step that already had a mismatch for a package, I would just add in that package again. If it's applications, I remember an issue from a few years back where if you have too many revision histories on an app, it will cause the sequence to not find the right one. And the solution for that one was simply to delete the revision history for those applications, or just update a property on it to trigger the sequence to think, oh, there is something new here, and use it. I've seen with nested sequences where there is a reference, you have to re-add that nested sequence in for it to find the right. So that's where I would start.
We got burned with that a couple of times.
Yeah, and there's even a follow-up in the chat here. I've seen, just agreeing with you, I've seen a recreate fix that, or even just try copying it again and see if that works.
Yep. All right, thank you for the feedback out there. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Follow up on how you're doing autopilot, Mike. You're doing that just Azure AD join, not hybrid Azure AD join, right?
Correct. Just native Azure AD.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I know of to install more than just a few apps in autopilot and get that really reliable is to leverage sequences from a cloud management gateway as part of that process. Because the sequence by nature is a little bit more effective in installing those, especially if those applications are not application model apps, but are legacy packages, because the sequence is capable of just pulling them right away and install them very effectively. So that could be a workaround also, but then you need to have a CMG, and suddenly applications are not free anymore. Now you have to pay for the download for them.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a hard sell. All right, I do not see any. I mean, there is a trick that I shared. Might be useful. Where did my screen go? Here. There is an option in ConfigMgr to validate content of a sequence without actually deploying it. And that is to create a standalone media of that sequence. And ConfigMgr will on the server do some validation. May not fix the problem, but at least it could indicate if there is an issue of the sequence binding packages. So maybe that. But I will still probably just go ahead and create the sequence again. But it's a neat little trick if you want to validate that the packages actually work, that the sequence is referencing. You can even point them to a specific distribution point when you do this. So just a healthy dose of PowerShell. It's not the magic script at all. It's like, 12 lines. One liner to actually do the job. All right. Anything else?
No new questions that have popped up. We still got 6 minutes available.
Oh, yeah. Anything you would like to share, mention, Mike, or even a question?
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot now.
6 minutes to go.
Yeah. Totally drawn a blank now. Now that it really counts.
That's usually what happens. We had Adam and Steve join us a few weeks back, and I managed to stump them both in a very similar approach. It's a talent I have. Andrew can contest to that one.
It's true. Every once in a while, I'll get lucky enough to have something pop up.
But we do have a question coming in.
Yes. Let's see. Is there a way to manifest a device OU into Azure AD for dynamic group assignment?
I like to say that's one of those attributes that are not available.
Yeah. It would be a great trick if you could, but I'm with you, Johan. I do not think that that's any kind of attribute that you could build a dynamic group off of.
I mean, if you go back to your suggestion earlier, in scripting, you can pretty much achieve a lot of things, and there are custom attributes that you can add into a device. For example, I'm using a category for my lab machines that I've used to filter them, and they can be queried, of course, but that would be. I don't have a ready-made solution for that one.
Yeah, and I think it's specifically for devices, if I recall correctly, because users, if they're synced with Azure AD Connect, that will show up. Their distinguished name, their on-prem distinguished name, that'll show up. Let's see, there's a follow-up. I have been able to merge the device DN into the device physical ID attribute. Would this cause a problem? I'm not sure. I've not done that.
I have no idea either.
Yeah.
Not tried it.
It's creative.
Yeah.
A for effort, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was a follow-up question from your blog post here, Johan. Are you just running that script on the server side?
Yes. You can even run it on the DP to be like closer to the content. As long as the console is installed, so you get access to the Powershell module, you can run it on any machine.
Awesome. And then another follow-up comment from Gareth. I think you can use distinguished name of on-prem OU. There was an option in preview that was related to the device OU in Azure AD. So might be some clever tricks there.
Thank you for that comment, Garrett. Awesome. All right, 2 more minutes. We can do one more question. We'll be forced to talk about cats.
Yeah, I heard one of our usual suspects there a moment ago, it sounded like. Is he laying at your feet there?
4 feet away, 5. But I have a shotgun microphone right here, and it kind of picks up a little bit more than it probably should. But yeah,
I always think it's a good day when I hear him grumbling in his sleep over there. Makes me happy.
It's one of those feel-good things, right?
That's right.
Yep. Sure is. But looks like there are no new questions coming in. So thank you, everyone that attended. Thank you for the good questions and chatter or interaction in the questions here. And special thank you to you, Mike, for joining us, and of course Andrew for, as always, having my back when we do these events. So it's been a pleasure having you guys.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Johan, and thank you for joining us, Mike, and everybody else.
Thanks. Appreciate it. It was a fun time.
Thank you, sir. All right. See you next week.
Have a great one, everyone.